presentation here. So hi, welcome everybody to today's webinar. We're going to be talking about the architectural tools in TurboCAD, and so I will start just by taking the approach of a brand new drawing and a brand new user. So I'm just going to choose File, New from Template. This is TurboCAD Pro 2017 Pro Platinum, and whenever you're going to be doing an architectural drawing in TurboCAD, you want to definitely make use of one of the architectural templates. So any of these templates here from the house template, the house templates are primarily needed for the house wizard, which I'm not going to get into today, but just make a mental note that if you're going to use the house wizard at all, we advise that you start with one of the house templates here. In this case, I'm just going to start with the architectural white template. This will be a imperial set template. So for instance, if I go to options and space units, which is always where you want to check first and foremost about your scaling, you see that I'm working with at a 1:1 scale and using architectural scale types. The formats in the workspace are set to architectural here as well. So what that means is when I'm drawing lines and so forth, I'll be drawing in feet and inches. So as a general rule, you want to be in model space drawing at a 1:1 scale at all times, and then TurboCAD's got tools, layouts and viewports similar to Autodesk's layout tools, which let you then scale your drawing and situate it on the piece of paper for printouts. So as a general rule, you just always want to start at a 1:1 scale in model space and do your drawings from there. If you right click anywhere on the in the space, blank space provided by TurboCAD, you can get to the Customize dialog box, and from there you can turn on and off any of the toolbars. So in this case, I've just gone ahead and turned my architectural toolbars on, and so that's this whole set of tools. These can be moved and modified and put anywhere you want. General note about the TurboCAD desktop is that the drawing tools are here on the left and the modifiers are here on the right. You of course can use the pull down menus to access any of the same tools in the application, but to kind of just give you a philosophy of how the default desktop is laid out, anytime you want to insert an object or create a new object, refer to this left hand toolbar, and then similarly if you want to modify any object, you'll go to the toolbar on the right. So anytime you draw in TurboCAD, prior to using any tool in TurboCAD, you can right click on the tool itself. So I'm going to right click on the wall tool here, and let's just look at the parameters here set up. So if I go to the wall page here in the properties dialog box, we'll see that the thickness is set to 6 inches and my height is set to 8 feet, and that's fine for an exterior wall. Let me just right click one more time. So what I can actually do here, if I go to the general page, we see that the wall style is set to standard, which is fine, and we'll talk about the styles here in a little bit. But let's say I want to create an interior wall and I don't want to have to set this up all the time, so I'm going to actually choose the wall page here and set this to 4 inches, and then go back to my general page and call this slide this here and call this 4-inch interior, and say new, and then say OK. And so now when I click on the wall tool, and I'll choose this one up here just because, notice it tells me it's the 4-inch interior wall, and if I click here and choose the normal wall, this should be the 6-inch wall, I'm hoping. So let's just go ahead and draw something now. So again, just to recap some of what I talked about last time about the UI, we've got the inspector bar down here along with the status line here. So anytime you're using a tool in TurboCAD, it's very important to look down into this area to get an understanding of what TurboCAD's expecting you to do next and which parameters are available for the tool that you have enabled. This of course will change depending on the tool that you're currently using. So first instruction it says down in the status line is to click to place the start point of the wall. So I'll just go ahead and click anywhere, and actually in this case I'm going to use a snap key, which is the G key for snap to grid. So I'll just draw here. Now I can either tab into the length and angle fields down in the inspector bar and type a length, which I guess I'll do now. So let's try 30 feet at a 0 angle, and I'm going to hit enter, and that's going to draw a 30-foot line at 0 angle. And then I can look at the inspector bar or the status line again, and gives me the next set of instructions. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my next wall segment, or draw my next wall segment. So when you're drawing in TurboCAD, you don't have to left click and hold the mouse the whole time. You can plot one point and then just kind of freehand move the mouse around, which is what I'm doing. I'm not holding any buttons on the mouse. And then once you left click, you'll place your next point. If at any point you make a mistake, you can hit the backspace to get rid of the segment that you accidentally drew. You can also hit the shift key, and that will lock TurboCAD into what we call an ortho mode. So if I draw out here, or I draw up, or I even draw backwards, notice it's locking me to 90-degree increments, and that's based on our ortho mode settings. That parameter is adjustable, but by default it's set to 90-degree settings. So for instance, if I want to come down here now and draw this at a 90-degree angle, let's just go like that. We won't care about the size. Similarly, I'm going to draw this way at 90 degrees, this way. And one of the things I notice as I'm drawing here is I don't actually have my snap modes enabled. So there's two snap modes that I'm going to make use of by turning these icons on. So now that they're on, you'll see what happens is I get little snap indicators, and if I move my cursor down, I'm going to get the geometric snap drawing aid. So we'll just go to here, and then we'll right click and close this wall segment, and we've got a nice evenly cut set of walls. So as I referred to the presets earlier, let's now switch to a 4-inch interior wall, and if I've set that up correctly now when I draw my wall segment, yep, and it didn't look like it did it right for some reason. So let's go back here, and I think the problem was I probably unintentionally set this to 4 inches. Okay, so it's kind of nice that I did that by accident, but what we can do here, if I do realize that I've accidentally done that, is I can hit Control T, come here to the select by entity type, click on the wall, select all my walls, and now go to the properties here, and we will go back here and let's set those to be 6 inches. Okay. So now that I've got my wall tool set for the 4-inch interior, now these should be a little bit thinner, and they are. Okay, and so now if I want to take a look at this in 3D, I'm going to right click and use my isometric mode here. I like to typically turn off the grid at this point, and now when I right click and choose one of my render modes here, I'm currently in OpenGL mode, which is not going to look good. If you don't have a supported graphics card, OpenGL will be the default, but let's go ahead and use Red SDK here in this instance, and now I'll right click. This is simply telling me that I don't have any lights set up in my drawing, so I'm going to go ahead and say yes to that, and that will add these 8 OpenGL lights. So that's what that message means, and you'll see that every time there's no lights in the drawing. And so now we've got a 3D view of our little house. And one thing about navigating in TurboCAD, if you click and hold the scroll button on your mouse, you're going to be able to examine. I think it's a little bit different in AutoCAD. In AutoCAD, I believe you do that and you pan. We do have a pan mode, which is the Control Shift plus the same scroll button. So if you want to pan your drawing, you can do that. And you can actually set those parameters up in the customized dialog box here by going to additional devices and setting those settings up here, and I'll come up in a second. So there are some custom navigation parameters that you can set up if you're an AutoCAD guy and you prefer to do it that way. You can choose the wheel assignment here, and for instance, hold, shift, and control is the dynamic pan. If you want to change that to just the hold button, you can. So in TurboCAD's case, though, holding the scroll button down is the dynamic examine tool. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and close that. Similarly, if you double click the scroll button on your mouse, you'll zoom to extents, which is the same as clicking this button here. So a nice navigation trick anytime you're off the screen or whatever is just a double click, and you'll bring your drawing back into the center. And of course, if you're in a top view and you do the same thing, it'll be in the top view. So okay, let's right click and go back to wireframe mode here. As I mentioned, the styles in TurboCAD are important to understand. So if we look at the general tab here, I see that my wall style says that I'm using the standard style. So what does that mean exactly? So if I come to the Style Manager palette and look at my wall styles here, this is the setup for the standard style. In TurboCAD Pro Platinum, and only in TurboCAD Pro Platinum, we've got the ability to have component walls here. So there's a couple of default ones set, and component walls let you add layers of complexity to your wall objects. So for instance, you might want to show your drywall or sheetrock, and you might want to have your airspace and then your brick component or whatever. You can set that up in TurboCAD by doing that. So if we actually take a wall segment, let's just go back here, and I know I messed up the settings here. Let's just draw another exterior wall. I think that's 6 inches, and actually let's try one of these other components. So in this case, let's just go do the wall with base just to see what that looks like. And so with my snap modes on, if I put my cursor and touch the exterior wall here, notice it's going to snap right in the middle. Again, I can hold my shift key down, and if I want to draw a wall that's going to extend from this middle out to here, I should be able to do that. And boom, and then boom. And you see the variation of the wall types here. Those are the component walls, and depending on the way that I drew the wall, I get this component wall. If we look at this here in a rendered mode, actually you can see the difference. Not the greatest example, but I do just kind of want to mention that there are component walls in TurboCAD. I've got a better example that I can pull up here in a little bit. Whenever you want to get rid of a wall segment in TurboCAD, you can simply just right click, choose the select tool, highlight the wall segment, and hit the delete key. You can also, of course, drag a window around, and the selection window in TurboCAD works like this. If you go from left to right, either way, up or down, you'll get this blue rectangle which indicates to me that that's a selection mode that requires you to encompass the entire object in order to select it. If you go right to left, the opposite direction, anything that you touch will become selected. So in this case, this wall and the two magenta colored walls are highlighted. So if I delete them, then I'm going to delete both of those. I'll use Control Z to put that back, and I just want to get rid of this segment here, so I'm going to go right to left upwards, select only that component wall, and hit the delete key. Okay, so a couple more notes on drawing and moving walls that you should make note of. Whenever it comes to moving a wall segment, you're going to want to right click and use the edit tool. And I typically like to use this in a let's just see something here, with this option, edit segments on, because this will give me a node in the middle that I can move from. And now notice what's going to happen here, because this segment is selected, and it's a refresh problem. Whoop, I actually think I'm actually surprised at oh yeah, I think there's some redraw problem going on. Let's just highlight that again. In this case, because the two wall segments that are highlighted in blue, I'm supposed to be able to move that out. There it goes. There was a refresh problem. Notice the adjacent wall here in the interior also extends based on the location of the wall that I'm moving. So whenever you highlight a wall in TurboCAD with the edit tool, any of the associated walls will be highlighted, and that will keep the connection with the wall segments consistent. And as you move or reposition your walls, you're going to be able to have the adjacent walls move with that. So another example would be, let's just move this upper wall segment in the same way. Again, I've got the edit segments option on. That's the same option is located here in the inspector bar. If I turn that off, notice I only get the two nodes on the ends. Okay, maybe it wants me to do that instead. Yeah. So it's a toggle between these two. Actually, it's a toggle between edit segments and edit nodes. The nodes just give you the endpoints, and then if I move an endpoint out, I'm only moving that point, as opposed to edit segments, where I can move the whole wall, and in this case all three, the two exterior sides and the interior, are going to move with that. So I bring that up because a lot of times the regular select tool just doesn't do the same thing. A lot of times the wall segment will break if you use that. So again, I highly recommend getting in the habit of using the edit tool with the segment modes if you want to keep the connections with the associated walls. And speaking of that, there is a way to drop the association, and we call that linking. So if I wanted to highlight this section here and this section here, I can. I need to do this with the regular edit tool actually. Now that's with the regular edit tool, and then I can drop the link here, and now when I highlight or use the edit tool here, this wall here is black, indicating that it's no longer associative. And so we call that linking. So I'll go over that one more time. So let's just undo that. Go back to my edit tool and make sure that worked. Right, so this interior segment's blue. That indicates to me when I move this out or move this in that this segment length is going to extend or shrink depending on the direction. And now when I want to drop that link, I can go to the regular selector tool, right click, and then come here, and that should have said drop link on there. You've got to actually highlight the two segments, sorry. So now I do that, and now drop link will be there. There it is. So you've got to highlight the two sections that are associated that you want to drop the link for. So that's the way that works. Okay, so let me just see how we're doing. All right, and so now let's add some doors and windows here. So we're going to come up here. I can either by default come to this portion of my dialog box, or since I've got my architectural toolbars, you'll see that both are highlighted as being the active tool. And again, I can specify the opening position with the snaps on. If I click in the middle of any of these segments, it's going to snap to the middle of that segment. And notice it indicates the middle of this segment because it's intersected here. So we'll just place a window here. Alternatively, if I know the distance from either of the endpoints, notice the little dynamic dimensions I'm getting on either side of the window, and those are the offset values down here in the inspector bar. So I can have an offset. Let's say I'm going to use offset 2 and I want that to be 3 feet. So now when I go back here, I know that this distance here to here is 3 feet. And I can do the same thing with doors. One other thing about walls that I should have mentioned, and let's just go back to them. If I double click on a wall segment and go to the properties, our wall tool is based off the double line tool in TurboCAD. So if I go here, notice the reference point. I've got left, center, right, and baseline. By default, the reference point is in the middle, and in fact, there's also a show direction option which will help you. So if I turn that on, what it'll do is it'll indicate to me which direction that wall was drawn in, and that can have bearing on the way your walls work. So let's just go back to the wall tool for 1 second. For instance, if I go back and set the wall to be on left wall and I start drawing, and again these are the component walls that I had on by default. If I highlight this and go to my edit tool, let's see where notice where the node is on this. In this case, the node point is on the left interior side of the wall, and if I show the direction on that particular wall segment, I'm assuming there'll be an up arrow there. So let's just show direction, and sure enough, we see that I know I drew this wall, that it's a wall that has the reference point set to the left side, and so obviously that's going to have bearing as you're drawing full sets of plans on where those nodes are and where the snap points are. So it's really critical that you understand that element of the wall tool. In most cases, I think drawing the center will be the best method. Okay, so getting back to Windows, again, if I want to edit an architectural object, I suggest using the edit tool as opposed to the regular selector tool. And again, I'll get dynamic dimensions here. So let's say this offset 1 here, this actually needs to be at 5 feet from the end of the wall here. I can just come in here, type in 5 feet, and move that to that exact location. And then let's see what happens when I draw another wall segment here. And let's say we want to put that one at offset value of 10. So these windows are going to be 5 feet apart. I can do that as well. Actually, not the window. It's calculating it from the end. So if that's 5 feet, and it's going to do it from the center of the window. So one thing I can do if I want to create another window 5 feet from that location is I can use this vector copy. So as I mentioned before, copy or modifier tools are over here. So if I highlight this window, and I'm going to use a normal selector for this, notice these tools here become highlighted. And one of these will be vector copy, so I'm going to choose that, and we're going to just come here. Let me turn off my snaps for this, and I'm going to point it in this let me do that again. So I'm going to go from here to here, and I'm going to type in 5 feet. Boom. And so that's 5 feet from center to center. Let's undo that. If I want it to be 5 feet from the end of the window, what I need to do is go and hit the D key to move my reference point. Let's put that in the middle there. And now I'll do the same thing. So I'm going to do the vector copy. To find the start point, I'm going to use this same midpoint here, which is where the reference point is. And now when I come down here and say 5 feet from that point, it'll draw the center of this window 5 feet from that point, I think. Actually, it made a copy, so this distance is probably from here to here. Let's just test that. So we'll go V to V, whoops, middle to V, midpoint to midpoint, and that's 5 feet. So you'll have to do a little bit of math, perhaps, when wanting to do that copy or exact distance. You'll have to take into account the width of the window to get that accurate if that's the method you choose. So just a couple of notes about that. Let's go ahead and undo those two. One other thing, we mentioned styles for the walls, doors and windows. In fact, all architectural components have styles. So in this case, we're using an awning transom style for these two windows. If I go into my style manager and want to make some changes, I can do that. So let's come in here and we can make some changes here in the style for the awning transom. So for instance, if I want to add a material, by default there's no materials for the glass assigned for the glass portion of the window, so I typically like to come in here and do this. Again, this would be something you could add to your templates. So I'm going to go ahead and say glass and glass, and so now when we render this, we should get glass components in there. Sometimes, there it goes, finally kicked in. Again, I think it was a refresh problem with the screen. And so now we've got our glass material in there, which is of course a little more realistic. In fact, I'm talking to our development team about having them make the glass material for all of our wall styles, or I mean our window styles, the default. So we've got a nice glass material on there. And let's now add a door. So I like to do this in wireframe mode. So we'll come to the doors, and again I'll right click first and look at the door parameters before I put them in there. So we've got a 3-foot wide door, we've got a single door, so I'm okay with that. And again, my snap modes have been disabled, so I want to put this right in the middle of this wall segment, and maybe one over here in the middle of this wall segment. And one thing I should have mentioned when drawing or placing the doors, you can actually decide which way to flip, inside, outside, or left or right. So I can use the right click option for this ability. I also have this down here in the inspector bar, same tools, and so we can set our windows and doors, or I'm sorry, our doors up appropriately depending on which way we need the swing to be positioned. Okay, take a look at that. You can also, one of the parameters for the doors is the amount that it's opened, so it's 50% open. If I want the door to be shut, I can go into the properties and close it. Now that'll be a shut door, and we should get some privacy there. Okay, so last thing I'll explain real quick is how to put a roof on this drawing here. And actually let's make this a little bit longer. It'll be better for demonstrating the roof. Similarly, I think I want to do this one as well. So let's pull this out, and you'll notice even with the door or window objects in there, when I extend that, the objects inserted into the walls will come with those. So it's important to note. And now let's go ahead and choose the roof tool. So there's a couple options for roofs. I can just draw roofs by hand by clicking on the first vertice. One thing you do need to note with the roof tool is that it's going to draw based on the work plane. So if you weren't with us last week, a quick lesson on the work plane. Anytime you're drawing in TurboCAD, especially with 2D objects, the 2D objects are going to be dependent on what the current work plane is. So for instance, right now I'm drawing on the ground. If I want to draw something on the side of a wall, I can right click, change my work plane, and now when I draw the same circle segment, instead of drawing on the ground, it's going to draw on the side of the wall, and that's because the work plane is positioned there. If I want to set that back, I can right click, say plan by world, and now when I draw my next circle, it's going to be back on the ground level. So this is one of the key concepts for understanding where things are going to be positioned and placed in TurboCAD. For instance, this can be a kind of a gotcha. So let's go here and change this back to a work plane like that. So if I don't have this work plane indicator on and I do something like get my work plane positioned on the side of the wall, and then I come in and I try and draw another tool, this might not be the best example, but notice what happens. I want to draw something vertically here to here. Well, I'm not going to be able to do that, and the reason I'm not is because of the position of my work plane. So it's always important to understand where your work plane is, and now when I want to draw, because my work plane is positioned correctly, that's acting like I want. So if you ever have a situation where you're drawing, especially the 2D objects, and they're just not acting right, the very first thing you want to do is look at the position of your work plane. And the reason I bring that up is because the roof tool is going to act the same or a similar way. So work plane by world, if I start drawing, and this is what you'll have to do in TurboCAD Deluxe, you start drawing, and I get that all around, and I think I have a nice roof, but when I come to render this, watch what's going to happen. My roof's in the middle of my living room, and the reason is because I've drawn it based on the work plane on the bottom. So let's undo that. So the simple solution to that is doing work plane by facet. I'll come here, I'll shift my work plane up to the top of the wall segment, and now when I do the same thing here, I'll just go around. And again, I'm using the snap modes, which don't require me to be accurate with my cursor. I just have to simply touch the wall segment that I want, although because my nodes are positioned in the center, I might want to be a little bit careful about that. Again, that's where those nodes come into play. But even though my wall node is positioned here, actually let me undo this segment and I'll show you. If I zoom in and I want to click it right on the endpoint there, I can do that. So I'll make sure that I'm being accurate here, and probably right click and finish. And let's actually change the color of that roof. I could have done this before, I'll do it now. I can do that a couple ways. Notice the roof is on the roof layer, and this is another advantage of using the templates. So when I come in here, my layers, roof is drawn on the roof layer by default. That color is set to black. If I want to change that to something that looks a little more like a roof color, like maybe this color here, I can easily change that way. Okay, and in fact, if I want to look at my house now without the roof, I can use that same design director to manage that. Let's go back to plan view. Similar to the walls or other architectural objects, when editing roof segments, I would advise using the edit tool. And in this case, we see that that I did actually do a pretty good job of getting the endpoints when I was using my snap modes here, so I think those are all looking nice and correct. And notice you've also got these green node points here, so I can actually move the roof segments this way. And in addition, I can add other nodes to this as well. So let's go down here. For instance, I can right click and should be able to do that. Let's try again. Very surprised by that. Oh, there it is, add node. I don't know why that didn't come up over here. Let me just try that again. Oh, there it is. Maybe I just missed it or wasn't clicking in the right place on the wall. So now that I've got nodes here that I can add, I can actually extend these roof segments out. Maybe not the greatest use case, but I just wanted to let you know you can customize a roof. And again, I probably just needed to click. It's not liking that. I don't know why. It doesn't like... maybe I need to do it on the wall. There it is. I've got to actually do it closer to the wall. And that actually makes sense because one of the parameters for the roof is the overhang. So it's probably related to the fact that I've got an overhang set of 6 inches. So it was being a little bit specific about, or wanting me to be specific about where I was clicking to add that node. So again, it's going to take into account the overhang distance. So if I go like that, click there, probably click here, yeah, add node is there. Okay, so that's adding a roof manually. We do in TurboCAD Pro Platinum also have the ability to just do a simple roof by walls, and this is kind of one of my favorite tools to play around with. So you can either select the wall as the status line is saying, or I can just draw a rectangle around this, and it's going to detect the entire external values of the wall segments, and when I click finish, I'm going to get the same or very similar roof to the one that I drew manually there. Just get rid of some of this extra stuff here. Okay, so again, if I right click, the roof here is on the roof layer, and it is automatically drawn at that red color, so that's nice. Again, in TurboCAD Pro, we've got some specific tools for modifying roofs. These are Pro-only tools here that I'm going to talk about, and that is the slope tool, which allows me to come in and edit the slope angle. So this is a key for doing like a gable end roof. So I'm going to highlight the end segment here, say 90 degrees, and then do that. I'll do the same thing over here so you can see it in action again. We'll say 90 degrees here, and now I've got gable ends on both of these. In Deluxe, unfortunately, it's very difficult to draw gable end roofs using the roof tool. You'd have to basically draw surfaces to do this. So that's just kind of one of the limitations in Deluxe. And now that I've got the gable ends, again, another Pro only feature is that I've got this roof wall modifier, and so this is going to let me bridge this gap here between this. So select the wall to modify, and now select the roof segment, and boom, that automatically closes that area. So do that again for you. So boom, it's a little tricky to tell. Okay, so got those nice closed gable ends. There is another way to do this, which is a little bit more manual, which I'll explain to you, and that is using these roof modifiers here. So we're going to use the top modifier, but in order to do so, I need to draw my modifier segment. So this is actually kind of a cool little tool to play around with. Because it's going to rely on a polyline tool, I'm going to choose my facet and change the work plane, as I explained earlier, to be the side of the wall. In this case, I'll use my polyline tool, and I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to snap to the top of the roof here, and then down to this angle here. Right click and say finish. And now I'll go to that roof wall modifier, top wall modifier, choose my wall, choose my modifier graphic, which is that polyline, and now I get the same result. And the cool thing about that actually is that if you've got a situation where you need to come up with a custom type wall, let's just see if we can move this down, and for whatever reason, I don't want it to extend all the way, or I want to create a custom shape here, the wall modifier will adhere to the polyline rather than to the roof. So you can come up with some really nice custom shaped roofs using that wall modifier tool. So let me just check in with the group here. Okay, making sure everybody's here with us. Okay, well, that's kind of it in a nutshell that I was planning to cover today. So I'll open it up now to any questions and let you kind of interact with any of the things that you've seen so far, and I can certainly answer any questions that you have as they pertain to the architectural tools. So you can either unmute your mic and chime in verbally, or if you've got a question you want to ask through the chat, you can do so. So now's your time. Hopefully everything I did made sense to everybody, and let's see, I see that Jans, you're asking, yeah, there will be another session. We plan to do these webinars every week at the same time, so just keep that in mind. Again, if you want to go to the forum, I have a link set up that has the permanent link for the webinars. We're going to be able to use the same link every week for the webinar, so you might just want to bookmark that, and then you can come on in and join anytime.
You actually need to scale the width and height of the doors each time.
Yeah, so again, let's just pop TurboCAD back open here. So let's see. Yeah, you can use presets, as I was showing you earlier, to kind of preset these values here. So let's try that. Let me get rid of the roof because that's having an effect on my snaps. So with that off, let's go to the windows. Okay, so in the case of a window, the default is 3 feet by 5 feet. So let's just come here. Let's play around with this for a second. So I'm going to choose a preset of 3 by 5, and let's just do that right. Okay, I won't worry about feet for now. And I'll say new, and let's see, let's just make sure. So that's 3 by 5. I'll say OK, and just so that I make sure I get this right, I'm going to do the same thing and come here, and now we'll change this to let's do 5 by 5. I think that'll make it easier to see. So again, come in here, I'm going to set preset value of 5 to 5, say new, and say OK. And so now when I choose my window, if I look at the presets up here, this is going to be a 5 by 5 window. And notice what's happening again. This is another case where the work plane is having an effect. I don't seem to be able to snap to the wall up here, right? So I know that if I go like that, that fixes the problem. So that's actually something I didn't realize would happen, is that placing the doors and windows, because they are also based on or have 2D elements about them, they're actually 2D, 3D objects. So when you look at them from above, they're 2D objects, but when you look at them from the side, they're 3D objects. So because there's a 2D component about them, the work plane is going to have an effect on them. So those are the two 5-foot windows that I put in. Now if I click the window tool again and I come up to my presets and I say 3 by 5, this should take us back to the 3-foot window. And again, I must have not done that correctly. when I set that up. That's surprising to me. That should have worked. Let me try one more. Maybe let's do a 4-foot window here. Foot, and boom, and come in here. Let's do 4 foot. Maybe I needed to hit new at that point. I'm going to say okay. Let's make sure that took this time. So let's do it over here. And that's 4 foot. And now when I come over here and do my 5-foot window, that should be a 5-footer. And sure enough, when I go like that, look at it. So yeah, I think the problem was that I didn't set the parameter after. Let's just try that one more time. So I'll go back to window main. Let's make this something ridiculous like 8 feet. And general, and I'll make this 8 feet. And then I think I have to hit new. I think that's what I didn't do before. And now I say okay. Click here. And sure enough, that is an 8 foot. And now I've got my 4 foot here. And so yeah, so when you're doing the presets, you've got to be careful that you set the preset and then hit the new button. That's what will actually create it. So I'm sure that's what I didn't do the first go round. But eventually, again, this is something, Linford, that you would include in your template, right? So you'll set up all your door and windows sizes, and then you can do that very easily. And similarly with the wall segments, you can do the same thing.
What about lintels over the openings?
Pardon?
Lintels over openings. Would you? Is there facility to install that separately?
I'm not understanding the question again.
Over windows and doors.
Oh, oval windows. Yeah. Okay. So right. So again, this right. So this is something that's a pro-only feature as well. In Deluxe, you're very limited to the number of doors and windows or the window types, and those are controlled by the styles. So if we go into the style manager here, this awning window, you can change the window shape here. And again, these in the Deluxe product, I think you're very limited to the window types and the shapes that come with the package. And in fact, in the case of the doors here, doors actually have another nice feature, which is a pass-through. So if I want to have a door type that doesn't actually show the door, I can have it be, I think one of these is pass-through, which will just not even display the door at all. So, but along with that, though, one thing I will mention is that in the case of Deluxe, there's certainly no reason you can't go out to a different, create a block, or go and grab a block from like the SketchUp 3D Warehouse, or you might go to a door or window manufacturer that's got their products in DWG format, which is a very common thing, and then you can do what's called creating a block. So and then you can do that in TurboCAD Deluxe. So I should have thought about that before. I kind of had a feeling that might be a question, but effectively anything you create, let's just do this real quick here, and I'll just do let's see if this will work. So I'm just going to do something custom. So let's just create a little arc segment, and we'll do like that, and come over here. Okay, and then I'll close that up, and now let's just extrude that here. And we'll make that, I don't know, 4 inches. Okay. I'm going to come in here and create a block by sliding that in there. Whoop. Maybe it doesn't like it doing it from there. Let me see which one. I want the simple extrude. And there we go. It just didn't like me doing that from a ortho view. So I'm going to create a block here. And now this probably won't slide in correctly. I'll see if I'm lucky, and no, I wasn't. And the reason is because if I go into my block, I've got to make sure that let's see how to do that. I think I need to rotate it 90 degrees on the X, so we'll do 90 degrees there. Save that. Okay, so now what I effectively did was set the and that still didn't work, and I think that's because let me go back and edit the content for this block. I think I need to make sure my block reference point is there, and let's just look at where it is. Did I get that right? Yeah, so let's try it that way. Blocks have their own unique reference points, so now when I come in here and slide this in the door, there you go. It's going to actually cut the hole in the wall like that. So long story short, you can actually go in and grab some custom elements from other sources and do this. In this case, it's a little tricky. My example might not have been so great with the arc wall segment, because there is actually another option in TurboCAD specifically to allow you to do exactly what I was showing. I was just kind of demonstrating the blocks. When blocks are slid into walls, they will actually cut the hole on the wall. But if that's exactly what you want to do with the arc segment there, being part of that, there is in Pro also this opening tool, which effectively lets you do what I would do there. But I believe if you went and got a block from any other resource, you could slide that into the deluxe product, no problem. So hopefully that answers your question. And so let me just take a look at my notes here, make sure I hadn't missed anything. One other thing that's a Pro only feature, let me go back to the drawing I had open of one of our power users. One of the other things that I don't have time to show today is something called roof slabs. So if you look at this dormer and you look at some of the other elements, whoops, let me get that back there. Some of the other elements in this drawing, and let me come here and turn off the perspective mode so I can navigate a little better. Some of these custom walls require a special set of tools, and we call these roof slabs. So this entire drawing has two different roof types. It's got the roof type I showed you, which is when you look at the selection info, will be listed as a roof. And that's the standard roof. And then you've got these other components which are roof slabs, and these are customizable elements that you can use in your drawing. Actually, we've got enough time. I can quickly show you an example of that. So let me come back, and I'll just, for the purpose of this demonstration, I'll just start new from scratch, and this is actually not even using an architectural template, but for this demonstration I think it'll be fine. So what roof slabs let me do is I can draw a polyline. In this case it's just a rectangle, but it's still listed as a polyline type, and then I can convert that to a roof slab. And so I'll click on that, and now if we look at this in selection info, I've got a roof slab, and I've got some parameters here. In this case, since it's not an architectural drawing, it's a very thin object, but nevertheless, if I come here and render this, it's going to be a 3D object, right? So now let's do something like we'll come here, we'll go like that. Let's move the reference point there, rotate it this way, and that's on the Y, so I'm going to come down here and type 45 degrees, and boom, and it's looking awful funky. And I'll just let's see, let me just mirror copy that. So it's still selected. I'll come over here to my mirror tool, and we'll just arbitrarily pick a point here. So now what I should have is two opposing angles, and I'm doing this upside down, but you'll get the point. So let's say we've got a situation where we've got a couple of roof slabs, and if I go to my edit tool here and I extend these slabs so that they in fact are intersecting. Let's see if I do this right. What the roof slab will let you do, the slab tools have some nice tools for trimming and otherwise modifying roof segments. So let's just for instance, I can trim one roof slab by the other. So I'm going to choose that roof slab. I'm going to choose this as a cutting edge, and I want to trim that part of it. Right. So now I can do the same thing on this other side here. So we'll choose the roof slab, choose the cutting line, and then I want to cut that part out. Oh, I did it backwards, didn't I? We're going to choose this is the roof we want to cut. This is the trimming, and boom. And so point being that TurboCAD's got some great tools for allowing you to do custom designed roofs, and that's how this dormer was done. That's how these other roof elements were done. Here, if I hit my space bar, which is the toggle for the selector tool, see, I think this is actually a roof slab here as well. Let's just see, roof slab. Yeah, so the roof slabs, which are again a Pro Platinum only feature, are really nice if you're ever in a situation where you need to do custom roofs, and they can be very, very powerful and give you some great options for detailing your drawings. All right, any other questions? I see John Solomon has now joined us, although he's remained silent today. John's one of our beta users. He's also the guy I credit for maintaining the TurboCAD community site, which I mentioned. I'll go ahead and post these 4 links in here for people that missed them before as being tremendous resources. Okay, so we've got a few links here. TurboCAD forum, if you're not a member of the forum, I would highly suggest you register to become one. We've got some great training products, the TurboCAD community site, and our YouTube channel. Let's see how to use wall materials. Oh, very good point, Todd. Let me go over the wall materials here. So I'll go back to my other drawing. I think hopefully this one. No, it's not that one. It is. Ooh, which one? Yeah. Okay. So you brought up a great point. I did talk about adding materials to the windows through the Style Manager. In the case of walls, my preference is to actually do it through the wall parameter itself, and the reason that is because you've got this unique ability to add a material to the various sides for the left and the right. I don't believe you can do that in the styles. So in this case, let's just once again go Control T to select all of my walls, and I'll hit the W key to go down to the walls here and select OK. Now when I go to the properties and go to the wall sides, I will be able to change everything all in one fell swoop. So let's just take a guess here at which side's which, and we'll go to brick and choose one of these bricks, and maybe let's do that color. Okay, I'm going to just go ahead and say yes now so that I know, hey, look at that, I lucked out, it's the right side, or I mean the correct side. And And now I can come in here, and that's on the left side. Let's go to the right side, and we'll add a different material here. I typically like to use this wall texture that I created. And there you have it. And again, anytime you see stuff getting really washed out like that, it probably means there's too much light. So we can turn off some of these lights here in the design director. Get that looking a little bit better. Similarly, the roofs are the same way. In fact, let's just turn the roof layer back on. And if I select the roof, I believe I have the ability to add materials to each side. Let's see where that is here. Actually, I have more than just the two sides. I can add different materials for each of the components, the top, the bottom, and the gable and the fascia. So I won't bother to do that now. Well, actually, I can just quickly add one to the top. Let's go to the eco-friendly roof tiles, and we can just hit the down arrow and choose one of these. I'm not sure if they'll be scaled correctly. Maybe we want a blue roof today, just to kind of show you. Okay, and obviously the tiles aren't the right size, so let's just click back on the roof tile, and I'm not sure which one I'm in. You can of course scale these. So in the case of Red SDK, the smaller number is going to create a larger scale. It's the opposite in Red SDK mode. So let's just, I mean in Lightworks. So let's just see. Now we get it positioned kind of the right size. Okay. So a quick little lesson on that. All right. Well, I don't know if there's any other questions, but your chance to ask. Well, you got me here. Everybody happy? All right. Again, I think I cannot stress highly enough checking out the TurboCAD forum, becoming a registered member there. We've got one of the best communities going as far as offering free assistance to others, and so I highly recommend you do that. I will also give you my email address in the case that you want to email me or you have some questions or want to follow up. I think, Linford, in your case, we need to follow up with one another to make sure that you've solved the problem with the templates. In your case, like I said, I would start first and foremost with updating your graphics card, because more times than not we see that is the problem. And I thought somebody else was typing a message, but maybe not. For those of you who, you're very welcome, Todd. Hope you learned something. I will be chopping this movie up, or at least processing it and sticking it on our YouTube channel. So if you want to look at it and review any of the stuff we discussed today, happy to do that for you guys. There's a playlist on there that's the webinars. For those of you who joined late or are not aware, if you want to turn on your microphone, you can do that. Next to your name there should be the ability to unmute your mic, and I'm happy to stick around and answer questions for a few more minutes if you guys want. To answer this question here, the first thing I would suggest you do is in the TurboCAD product itself, I would go to the Getting Started videos. This will kick you to our website. So this is the very first place you should look. These videos are also available if you go to the YouTube channel, to the specific TurboCAD design group channel. I know they are on here somewhere. In fact, they're right here on front, Getting Started. There are also some architectural drawings, videos specific to architectural drawing. So this is the site you want to go to as far as YouTube goes. So that should answer your question there for very beginning. And again, I would also recommend that you visit the TurboCAD forums. And then in addition, we've got some really nice training products here. If you click on this link here, this should take me to the training page. So we've got several of these training guides available. And then in addition, we've also got the training and certification site. So the training and certification site is very nice because it's got assessment lessons at the end, or little assessment tests. Plus, when you go there, you will have the ability normally to chat with other users or our trainer. And in the case of the assessments and the materials themselves, these are the same materials that are in the training guides. But the advantage to using this site is that you can view them on mobile devices, as opposed to the training guides themselves, which are HTML based, which run locally on your machine. So let me just show you my desktop here, and I'll pop one of these open here. This is last year's 3D training product, and these are very nice, very nicely done by a woman named Val Carter, who's been a long time TurboCAD trainer and proponent, and she's been creating these guides for many years, so she's really got it down to a science. So if we just pop open what this looks like, this material's both written and has videos to support what's being discussed. So if we go into the tutorial sessions, this is where I know some of the animations are. So we look at 2D profiles, so it'll have a discussion with some exercises on how to create some 2D profiles, and then you've got a tab here that says animation, and then you can look at any of these animations here. We'll just click on this one here, and these do require internet connection, simply because she's always updating this content, and then you can run through this video, which will have the same lessons or same steps as you would go through. These do not have audio. They're done purely through the screen windows and the comments here, the little discussion bubbles. So there's no audio on these, but my personal preference whenever learning software is to learn through videos, because it just kind of takes the guesswork out of this stuff. And so highly recommend you have a look at the training materials that are available on our website. And again, if you have any questions, my email address, I'll type it one more time for you guys. Maybe I'll do it the right way. Feel free to contact me anytime. This looks like it's actually probably Norwegian. Let me that's interesting. Let me just see. Kai Sands is our Norwegian expert. So if you go to turbocad.no, which is for Norway, you'll see him there. Learn the icons and where to find things is what I'm looking for. So to answer this question, one thing I should point out, which is critical to learning TurboCAD, is we've got something in the application called Context Help. This shortcut key is Shift 1, but actually you only need to use the F1 button. So if I want to put my icon here, or I move my cursor on this wall icon and hit the F1 key, it's going to jump me to the online help specific to that tool. So this should take me directly to the wall tool and learning how to use the wall tool. So anytime you're in TurboCAD and you need to know what a function or an icon is, you can do that. I can do the same thing if I come up here and go highlight the dimension orthogonal, hit F1, that'll take me straight to the creating dimensions, and there's my orthogonal tool right there. So that's a really nice place to start. As far as learning the icons themselves, I'll go back over that in case you weren't with us. The default desktop here is set up so your drawing tools are on the left hand side. So lines, in the case of architectural tools, the default desktop will look like that with your wall tool here. So just kind of as a philosophical approach to TurboCAD, you've got your drawing tools here on the left and then your modifier tools on the right. Of course, any of the tools can be accessed through the pull down menus, and in fact, because the high-res monitors have been becoming more and more popular, what we actually did was we disabled the icons in these toolbars, but you can turn those on if you want. And so we'll have the show command icons in the pull down menus and show command line in the local menus, and that might be a easier way for you to start learning, because then when you come here you'll see the matching icon for that tool. So if I select this tool here, that's going to highlight this orthogonal dimension tool there. And of course you can use these sliders to bump up the sizes of those icons as well. Okay, you like that one, huh? Very good. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now, and like I said, thank you all for participating. We're going to continue to do these on a weekly basis, so thank you for your time, and please do follow up with me if you've got any questions about TurboCAD. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Dave.